I'm Michael Jacobsen. Welcome to today's episode of The Business of Creativity. Today we interview Anthony Hallas. Anthony is the co-founder of Australian-owned international swimwear and lifestyle brand Seafolly. Seafolly recently took on L Capital, a division of LVMH, as a private equity partner, but prior to that had a 40-year history as an Australian-owned family business. Now, as one of the most successful fashion businesses in the world, let's see what Anthony Hallas has to say about the business of creativity. Anthony Hallas, welcome to the Business of Creativity. Thanks for coming on the show. So Anthony, Seafolly has 35% of the Australian swimwear market. You've got 42 stores in Australia alone and stores in 46 countries, including stores in Harrods, Galleries Lafayette and Selfridges. It's an amazing success story. What about the business do you love?
There's so much I love about the business. The core product, what we did, is create this incredible swimsuit, which seems kind of menial, but we actually change people's lives because women, for them to wear a swimsuit, a little piece of fabric in the public domain, was the most terrifying experience for many, many women. And we solved the problem for them. We combined fashion and we gave them the most beautiful, fashionable swimsuit, but one that actually fit. And we give them that in a whole experience of service within our stores. And so they'd come into the store terrified. We've got to undress, I've got to put on this little piece of fabric, see myself in the mirror, which is horrible, in a swimsuit, and then I've got to go into public. And we'd make this experience as enjoyable as possible so that they'd end up with a swimsuit that they felt comfortable in. And we actually had women in tears in our change rooms because they were so terrified, and they actually had found something that they loved and felt good in and were made to feel good. And I got letters from women thanking me for developing this product, and that's really what it was about, satisfying a problem for women. And
so through tapping into that emotion in an authentic way and solving that problem through swimwear, but yeah. it's a personal, very personal to people.
It really was. It brought tears to your eyes, and it seems crazy because it's bikinis, it's holiday, it's fun, and it's frivolous, but it actually had an impact on women's lives.
It's part of people's lives,
yeah.
Yes. And you yourself grew up in an entrepreneurial family. Your father Peter was an entrepreneur and co-founder of Seafolly and other businesses since he arrived in Australia. What was it like growing up in an entrepreneurial family with all the highs and lows and everything in between?
Well, you know, like my father always says, people say, well, why did you start Seafolly? And his answer is, I had to put food on the table. You know, for him it was survival. It was a reality of life. He came here with nothing. He couldn't speak a word of English, and he needed to make a life for himself. So he started this business, and it was the fifth member of our family. It would be sitting at the table with us. It was part of our conversations. Every school holidays, every spare minute I had, I'd be in the warehouse packing boxes, laying fabric up on the cutting room table. It was part of the family.
So you were around this, and I mean, it's important that you were in the shop floor, in the warehouse floor, you were cutting fabric, and on the face of it, that might seem simplistic, but it gave you, I would imagine, the knowledge, the true knowledge of your business. How important do you think that is in a day where we've got thousands, millions of startups around the world, and there's a difference between an idea and an actual startup that is a business? How important is it to actually truly understand the core nuts and bolts of your business?
Yeah, well, look, it's vital. It's vital. I mean, it gave me two things. Number one, I felt such a deep relationship with the business. It was so deeply personal. Not being successful was not an option. You know, we just had to make this thing work. It was anything else wasn't even conceived of. So the commitment in time, in emotion, in thought was 100%. So that's the one thing. It was an incredible focus we had on this business. But secondly, it is the knowledge. You know, you grow up understanding the innate intricacies, and nothing can replace that. I mean, that's just, it's part of me. It's in my blood.
Yes. Interesting what you said earlier. It's an interesting psychological paradigm, I think, that it just had to work. Because this is something that, you know, we all hear from time to time, but the reality is you're sitting at the helm of a successful international global business with a successful partner. It's okay, we can edit it later. Okay. We can just stay. you're sitting at the helm of a successful international business with a large international partner with L Capital, and you're saying that the fact is that it had to work. So these are sage words, these are wise words. What does it mean in reality that it has to work, and how do you know? How does somebody know if they're at a fork in the road where they're coming home, they're tearing their hair out saying, is my business going to work? How do you internally feel it has to work, as opposed to maybe it's not a good idea, maybe I should shut that down?
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of angles to that. I mean, number one is just the sheer financial realities. I mean, obviously it has to have a cash flow, and it needs to be sustaining itself and operating, and that's obviously a given, and everyone is in the same boat when it comes to that. But I think the more intangible is firstly the people. So if you come home and it's really just all about you, and you just feel like you're on your own driving this thing, that's a hard slog. But I'd come home after building this business, and I had such an incredible team of people around me who shared the passion. They had as much, and some of them had even more ownership over that business, emotional ownership, than I did. And to have those people along for the ride with you is for me the number one. You need a great team of people. And then I think it comes down to what I said before about what I loved about the business, that you're really answering a problem, you're solving a problem for people. So we really were solving a problem for women. And if you're not solving a problem, if you're just doing something for the sake of it and pushing shit uphill, what's the point? You know, if you're really genuinely solving a problem, and you are getting those letters from women thanking you for helping them, that means something.
And that is business, right?
Something.
You're doing something, you're solving a problem, you're receiving compensation in turn for that, and you're also creating something.
Correct.
And so, along the lines of that, what was your vision when you took the reins of Seafolly and grew it, over the last 20 years into the next stage of its development and into this international corporation? What was in your mind? You knew the problem that you wanted to solve. Did you know where you wanted to take it, and did you have any idea where you would take it?
Well, when I took over the business, it had been running for around 20 years, and like I said, for my father, it was just about putting food on the table, and he built a foundation of a great business, but the business was involved in lots and lots of different things. It wasn't just swimwear; it was lots of different types of apparel, and had a couple of different brands, and was doing private label. And when I joined the business, I saw that we were just spread doing way too many things, and something inside of me just saw this one little jewel in the crown, which was this little brand called Seafolly, which was tiny at the time. It was a small wholesale Australian brand, just one of many. And I saw that was a real jewel. I saw that we had a fantastic designer designing that particular brand. And I had just bought my father's partner out, and I owned half the company, and he'd just made me into the CEO. And I just had a sort of epiphany overnight that why don't we just close everything down and just focus on this one brand? So we reduced the business by 70%. Overnight, I reduced turnover by 70%.
That's a big call.
It was scary. I didn't sleep for weeks, but something inside me said, let's just focus on it, because what we're doing now isn't working. Let's just focus on that one little diamond, and let's all focus our energies on that diamond. And the rest is history, just that focus of good people on this core product and a core brand we just went on a ride, an amazing, exciting ride.
And that gut feel, that inspiration, whatever label one puts on it, to me, that's innate to entrepreneurialism, isn't it? The fact that you identified the diamond in all of the businesses, and had the courage to back that call, even if it meant dropping turnover.
Yeah, look,
it's a gut feel, isn't it?
It's a gut feel, no spreadsheets, nothing is going to tell you whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing. In hindsight, it was the right thing. It could have probably just as easily been an absolute screw up. But look, I think we were doing it knowing something. I mean, we understood this business and we knew it was right. And I do believe in gut feel. I've always been. Yes. I mean, before I joined Seafolly, I was actually an actor, and I spent 7 years. I was at acting school and was a professional actor for a time. And it's that same, when you have an incredible performance and you feel like everything's on your side and it just flows. You have the same thing in business.
The energy flows.
Yeah, you have exactly the same feeling. And that innate feeling I had that reducing the business to grow it was that same. It was the same thing.
Yeah, and that's really what gets even through difficult times in business, isn't it? It's that feeling inside. I think going back to what we were talking about earlier, where even if you're facing difficulties, you feel you can get through them. You feel the vision and your gut feel tells you that now's the time to push through, or maybe now's the time to shut the door.
Yeah.
And you did have a stint as an actor for quite a significant period of time. Do you now consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Look, I don't actually. I think what my father did in that first 20 years, even though at the 20th year it was still a very small business and probably not as financially viable as it needed to be, that vision to create something from nothing. I mean, to me, that's an entrepreneur, someone who creates something from nothing. Now, I had something there to start with, and I think that's a lot easier actually than having a blank piece of paper, and I have incredible admiration for anyone who can do it, and I'm starting to get involved with a few people who are starting businesses from nothing and trying to help these people grow their businesses, because I think that's fascinating. To start with nothing and just an idea is one of the most courageous things you can do, I think.
Yes, but you did grow this business, and in doing so, I'm curious to find out how you balanced, because you're growing a creative business, or a business that's about design and fashion, and a lot of it about emotion as well. But this was a creative business or creative sector. How do you balance business with creativity? What's your opinion on the paradigm of art versus commerce?
Yeah, well, I provided a structure around our designers so that we gave them freedom to explore and go crazy, and they also understood that there was a portion of what they were doing that was the commercial realities, and we put a structure around that. So, and the designers actually love that. I think creative people will actually love having some structure put around them, as long as they're given the freedom to explore. But I find that creatives do love some structure if you can give it to them. Yeah. And
now you've got L Capital, private equity, part of the LVMH family, as a 70% shareholder in the business. So I dare say there's a few spreadsheets in the board meetings now, but historically you had a big qualitative focus, a big non-financial focus during your board meetings, didn't you? What did you focus on?
Brand. We just built the brand. I significantly overinvested in marketing in the early days. We did a national advertising campaign. We were probably one of the first fashion companies in Australia to do an outdoor billboard campaign nationally. And we spent far more money than we should have, and no private equity firm would have ever agreed to let you spend that kind of money as a proportion of your sales. But it really was about driving this brand. I recognised that the swimwear industry was incredibly fragmented. There were many, many players, all tiny, and there was just a calling for one brand to just rise up and take over. And I was focused on doing that, so we just went hard at marketing our brand. Our first year we did a national billboard campaign on Kirsty Hines, who's now internationally known, and we were one of her first major campaigns. And we just followed that up year after year.
Miranda Kerr,
Jess Hart. We launched a lot of careers, and eventually that overinvestment actually fell into line with sales, because that initial overinvestment really drove sales very fast, and then we started to see the profit come in a few years later.
So would it be fair to say that your experience in building the brand, obviously there's a lot of secret ingredients there, but you did overinvest, in your words, in marketing, and you really put yourself on the map in that way, but yet still the product was a good product, and it was a product that the market thought was good. You weren't just publicising and marketing, ambitly. You still had a product that people liked, and one that was fulfilling their needs, but you were over-investing to disseminate the word and to build that.
Correct. I mean, we only over-invested in marketing because we believed so much in our product.
Yes.
I mean, we constantly heard from girls on the sales floor, the salespeople, telling us that they always put when a woman was going to the change room, they'd always put a Seafolly into their hand because they knew that's the one that they would buy. So we knew that the product was incredible. We just needed people to know who we are. And one of the most incredible times, I actually brought tears to my eyes, is driving to Heathrow Airport after a trip to London, and there's this big tower which has a big ad on it, and we'd just done a billboard campaign through London. And as I'm leaving London, I look up and see this huge Seafolly sign, and it was incredible because we were telling women in London about this brand from Australia that I knew, and I had the confidence that they needed to find out about it because it's an incredible product, and I knew that they'd love it.
Absolutely, and it's selling Australia. I mean, in some ways, it's becoming a lifestyle brand now, isn't it? I mean, and it's becoming iconic of Australia.
Yeah, 100%. It's so much more than swimwear now. We are a whole lifestyle, and we have flagship stores in many parts of the world now, and you can buy everything from a bikini to a bag to a hat to shoes to, you buy your whole summer wardrobe now. So it's changed a lot.
Always excited to see the billboards in London. It always makes me miss Australia. And you've grown up with this business. It's been part of the family. It's part of you, I dare say, and it's partially your baby. How did you know, and how did you feel was the right time to bring in a partner? You brought in LVMH and L Capital. What was the driver in your mind behind that?
I felt that we'd really achieved a lot of what we were striving to achieve. We were dominating the market in Australia. We had a serious business throughout Europe and throughout North America. The next thing was another major investment into marketing and to start rolling out stores, which required a lot of capital. And secondly, I think the retail world is just changing so rapidly with the online world and foot traffic in shopping centres going down, and I felt we needed to get the expertise in who would understand that world a lot better than I. I've come from a much more traditional background of retail and apparel. So I was looking for someone, and actually I wasn't looking, I was approached by L Capital, who are the private equity arm of LVMH, and the way they presented themselves to me, they had expertise in these areas, in social media, in store rollouts. They definitely had the capital to inject, and they just seemed like a terrific partner for us to go with. So it seemed like a good choice.
And you're still on the board. You still have a stake in the business. What else is next for you? What's your focus in your involvement in some startups yourself?
Yeah, so I've invested in a startup, wearable technology. I think this wearable technology space is very exciting. I think the time will come where we'll be wearing clothes and it will be cold and the clothes will warm you up, and I think there's just so much
that's going to... good in London.
It'll be great in London. So I think there's just so much going on with our clothing. So I'm kind of trying to find a little niche in this wearable technology sector, which is quite interesting. I wanted to get back into creativity. After being an actor, I was missing that creative link, so I've started writing a novel, which I'm enjoying, and then doing various investments. I'm doing some investments in property and various things, and it's a whole new lifestyle. And
I believe, just going back to the writing, I believe you're always a prolific writer. I've heard about the famous black books that you used to write notes in when you were CEO of Seafolly.
Yeah, well, I'd go to bed every night and I'd have my black notebook next to me and a pen, and without fail I'd wake up at 1 or 2 in the morning and I'd go out of the room and I'd just write, and often in 5 or 6 pages, sometimes half the book, and only when I got the absolute last thought out of my mind, the last word, would I be able to go back to sleep again. And once that last word was out, I'd just fall asleep like a baby and sleep for another 4 hours or so.
Perfect way to run a business. Can you tell us about your wife Andy's organisation, Thread Together, and what that does? Yeah,
that's very, very exciting and very rewarding for us. So Andy had the idea, being in the industry, both of us for so long, we saw just the enormous amount of excess apparel there is in shelves around the world. It's terrible, actually. It's so wasteful, and
so it can't be sold, or a change of season doesn't get sold.
Yeah, it's things that have been on the sale rack. Not everything on the sale rack sells. So after it's been on the sale rack and it's just unsaleable, this perfectly good new product either is sitting on shelves gathering dust, or actually gets burnt, or actually gets dumped into landfill, or get sold into third world countries for 20 cents a piece, which does terrible damage to those economies because it damages their own apparel sector. So Andy had the idea, let's do something with this. There's so many people in Australia who are sleeping on the street, who are going through tough times. There must be use that we can make of these clothes. So over the last 6 years, we've built up this organisation called Thread Together, which matches that excess new clothing with people in need. And we work with 100 or so social service agencies around Australia to get that new product in the hands of people in need, giving them dignity, because often these people are given second-hand underwear and second-hand socks and rags and things with holes in them, which makes you feel even worse. And if you'd been living on the street for the last few nights and then someone hands you second-hand underpants, you don't feel good about yourself, but now they're getting brand new clothing. So we give dignity to people.
So you're working with a lot of retailers, you've got a lot of corporate support as well, I gather.
Correct. And in the last 12 months, we've clothed around 100,000 people.
Wow.
And hopefully in the next 12 months, ideally we wouldn't have the problem and we wouldn't need to clothe any of these people, but while they exist and they're there and there's a need, we would like to be able to clothe them.
Fantastic. Many creative entrepreneurs around the world would love to hear your advice. I'd love to be sitting around here around the coffee table chatting to you about your experience growing Seafolly and what else you're doing. We've hopefully given them some great insight. Closing remarks, what would you have to say to a person who's got a business in fashion or in any aspect of the creative sector, sitting there working out, how do I make a living doing what I love creatively?
Look, I think firstly you need to get good mentors, get good advice, find a circle of people who really have been there and can give you support and advice and guidance. I think that's very important. I think you need to know that your idea is an idea that's really necessary. Sometimes you can become a bit insular and think something is just incredible, but really it's something that interests you. So you need to know that what you're offering is something that really interests people.
That there's a need.
That there's a real need for it. And you need to just be focused and work your ass off, because, what's that old saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yes.
You just got to work hard and you've got to be focused on it and diligent and put your heart and soul into it.
Anthony Hallas, thanks for being on the Business of Creativity.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you.